For veteran movie cameraman Vincent Baldino, shooting from a platform attached to a slow-moving car should have been routine. But it was about to turn tragic.
That's not the point.
Yes, it is. Oh, shit.
Oh, my God.
On a turn, Vincent had been thrown from the camera platform and smashed headfirst into the pavement. He would lose one half of the left frontal lobe of his brain.
The accident occurred on location in Florida. Stacy Baldino, Vincent's wife, was at their home in California.
It started with a phone call very early one morning at 6 o'clock. And I was told that there had been an accident and that it was really very bad. When I got to the hospital, they had already operated because they couldn't wait for me to give permission. Vincent's brain injury was so severe that the doctors had to go ahead and perform it. I was instructed to call the doctor. He said that Vincent was not going to make it, that he was probably going to die.
On the second day, Stacy learned that after trying for 11 years, she and Vincent were expecting a baby. The timing was heartbreaking.
This was about midnight, so I went into his room and I told him that I was pregnant and that he really needed to survive and come out of this coma because I didn't want to do this by myself. Then on the third day, Vincent's brain pressure got out of control. All the alarms were going off at the time, and immediately they took him down into surgery. And the one option that they told me that we would have, if medication didn't help, was that they would have to split the skull in half to allow the brain to expand, but the chances of people surviving that was about 2%. So after he came down out of the emergency room from that incident, the doctor on call came up to me and he said, Vincent's not going to make it. So my suggestion to you is to call the family in, get your affairs in order, and say goodbye. And I went into his room on that third day, and I had to say goodbye. And that was the hardest thing I ever had to do.
Though Vincent did not die, he remained in the black hole of his coma. Standard treatment was to pound on his chest, shout at him, and inflict sharp pain to see if he responded. If he didn't, it was suggested that life support should be ended.
By chance, 4 weeks into Vincent's coma, Stacy heard of Roger Borde, a man who had been discovered to have delta brainwaves, the very same waves put out by coma victims.
First time we hooked up Roger, we immediately saw waves which were larger and of a lower frequency than I had ever seen in someone up to that time in a wakeful state.
Because of his delta waves, Roger is sometimes able to reach coma victims and help them find their way back.
So I wait for a quiet time where I can sit down in the corner and basically be silent and to observe, maybe close my eyes and listen to the sounds in the room, listen to the rhythm of his breathing, to watch the monitors, basically take stock of what's going on in that room. And I do that for quite some time. And then from there, I can begin to see his rhythms.
Roger taught Stacy to read the moments when Vincent was nearest to consciousness. The hope was to lure Vincent back into the world with things that might remind him of home.
I would sing to him, I would read to him, and I just felt that he could hear. And then one day, I was holding his hand. I was just telling him about all kinds of things. And then he just decided to squeeze my hand. And at first, I didn't know what to think. I mean, at first I thought, okay, it's just a reaction. But then I looked at him and I said, Vincent, this is Stacy. Do you know who I am? And he squeezed it again. And I said, Vincent, can you let go of my hand? And he did.
For the first time, hope. And then the day of the breakthrough. On November 2nd, 5 weeks after entering his profound coma, Vincent emerged.
I-L-O-B-E-U.
It would be weeks before Vincent would know who he was or where he was. But by Christmas time, Stacy felt he was ready to hear a difficult secret.
And I looked at him and said, Vincent, there's something that I haven't told you. And he turned and looked at me and he said, you're pregnant. And I didn't know what to say. I know that the only time that I told him that I was pregnant was when he was in a coma. So I looked at him and I said, well, you know, it was a really stressful time when we were there. And I lost the baby. And Vincent had been eating an ice cream cone. And he looked at me and said, well, it'll be okay. It's all right. And he handed me his ice cream cone. Every day, I see Vincent making progress. Every single day, I see a little something. Sometimes it's a little step, sometimes it's a huge step. It really is an exciting feeling to see him being able to do some of the things that he used to do before, like playing paddle tennis. That's one of his favorite games. For a man who was supposed to be a vegetable, to see him out on the court and moving around and to go after that ball, he really surprised me. You can never set limits on anyone.
I'm going to play this game and I'm going to play with you. Cutie.
Roger Laborde told us that there were ways in which we could communicate with people in comas. And I said, well, can you come and teach us? And he said, I would love to. And I said, well, how much do you charge? And he said, oh, I don't charge anything because I just want to be there to help. I only ask one thing of you. There are hundreds of thousands of people who are going to go through the same thing that you are going through. All I ask is that you share it. And I said, okay.
Let's have a That's Incredible salute to Stacy Baldino, who's here with us tonight.